everyone. I'm Wendy Carrillo, Assembly Member for the 51st Assembly District, and we wanted to have conversations with leaders across our city, across our county, and across our state about some of the most impactful issues that are affecting our constituents and really the people of Los Angeles and the people of California. So joining me for this conversation is Maria Salinas, who is the President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. So thank you for wanting to be a part of this conversation. I think it's important that our small businesses understand the impact and the resources that are available for them. So Maria, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Assemblywoman, for having me as part of this important conversation. We're definitely in a very unprecedented time, so I'm happy to share our experience in Los Angeles.
So you and I were talking, we have been in communication about the impact to small businesses across our region and really this incredible pandemic that we're all living in. I read in the LA Times that only 46% of all Angelenos have been able to retain their employment. That means there's a lot of people that are hurting, a lot of people that want to know what's going to happen and what those resources are. I represent a district that has incredible small businesses, a lot of really great restaurants, mom and pop restaurants, great food that are not operational outside of the generic go-to or to-go pickup that folks are doing right now. So I wanted to have a conversation with you very frankly about what the LA Area Chamber of Commerce is doing, the resources that are available to small business, and from your perspective, what some of the issues with the stimulus money on the federal level that's coming down to support.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you are bringing up things that are definitely very important to the Los Angeles economy. We know that in Los Angeles that our economy, we always cite how small businesses are really the engine behind our economy. And we have seen it at the LA Chamber ever since the emergency orders started and the shutdowns began to really take a hold in small businesses. You look at any neighborhood in Los Angeles and there's a small business that is thriving there, whether it's, a restaurant, a hair salon, or some other kind of, retail operation. And when you're telling businesses that they have to close, when you're identifying businesses as non-essential, from a health perspective, it's the right thing to do. We need to contain this. I'm not disagreeing with that. But then what's the economic impact? And what we've seen is that those small businesses are at great risk of, closing their doors forever. And that's what we at the Chamber are trying to avoid. Mm-hmm. And there's two things that the small businesses need. They need access to good information of, what's available to them from whether it's loans or grants.
Mm-hmm. And to that, I will say that my office put together a whole list of resources for small businesses that we'll share when we upload this in the links towards this post.
Yes. So that's important, but even more important than that is relief. It's liquidity. How do you stay open if you're not getting any revenue, you don't have any income, but yet you have employees, you have your rent, you have your utilities. And so what we quickly mobilized was to identify where we had funding options. The mm-hmm. SBA is always a great go-to, the Small Business Administration. At the time, the federal government was looking at their first stimulus package, and we were very involved to ensure that small businesses got their fair share related to that. And when that actually came out, there was one particular loan that had been identified called the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, which is basically a forgivable loan, provided that small businesses use that loan for retaining employees. So that was essentially the spirit of that loan. Those funds, $350 billion, were depleted last Thursday. But hot off the press news, we know that as of today, that Congress has reached a deal to replenish that in the amount of $310 billion. It just goes to show you the great need, additional funds, but it just goes to show you the great need that we have in our small business community.
I think part of the biggest challenge with the initial 350 billion of these particular funds is that they went to large corporations and not necessarily the mom and pop small businesses that are the bread and butter of our local community. These are what makes a community unique in its own way. And that's been, I think, the most of the feedback that we have received. And I'm glad that Congress has taken action in additional funds. And so if a small business was not able to qualify under the initial, what do you think are the steps necessary moving forward to ensure that they receive these funds?
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of businesses that were either still in the process of trying to figure out how to apply or hadn't gotten all their documents ready to submit an application. We were recommending to all those businesses to continue. Even though the funds had been depleted, we wanted them to continue to gather their documentations, to continue to work with their banks, so that once it was replenished, because we had a we're feeling good that it would be replenished, that once it was replenished, they were ready and able to step right back in line to apply for these loans. So that was one thing. The other thing that I think this has brought to light was what you just mentioned. There are businesses that won't be able to apply for those loans because for whatever reason, they could be a very small business, or they're a business that has an ITIN number. You know that here in Los Angeles, we embrace our immigrant community, and we know that they're entrepreneurs. And so what we were doing at the chamber is identifying all those other avenues where the smaller businesses that didn't have a banking relationship in terms of where they could go for funding or grants. We know that the city of LA has set aside funds for this. There are what's called a community deposit financial institutions that operate here in Los Angeles that also provide funding options as well. The county did that as well. They set aside some funds, LA County, to be able to provide funding to those very small enterprises. So I do think that within Los Angeles that there's a very giving community, that we recognize that this type of a small business that might not walk into the traditional bank, that they too are part of the economy that needs to be supported. One of the things that we do at the chamber is we have a technical assistance program that we help those type of small businesses, any small business, find the right resource for their relief.
And this is what's generally called microenterprise.
Could be called a microenterprise, yes.
I know that, as you mentioned, the county has put additional resources. The city of Los Angeles has additional resources. The state of California has additional resources. So that's 3, plus whatever the federal government is doing. That's a total of 4 different levels of government that are trying to figure out how we help our small businesses. Again, in the link that we will provide when we post this video, we'll have a link where all that information is available. But I wanted to talk to you as well. I think the ITIN piece is important because there are about 1.2 million ITIN taxpayers in the state of California that create a $3.2 billion increase to our tax general fund across the state. And these workers often don't see any of that benefit. And so I'm glad that the chamber is trying to identify ways in which to help. What about the underbanked?
The underbanked would fall into that same category, Assemblywoman. I think it's so important that we recognize that our economy here in Los Angeles is a spectrum. We have large employers, we have, you know, large small businesses, we have small businesses of a variety of sizes. And if we are to say that we're going to be responsible for the Los Angeles economy, it has to be every element of that economy. And so we're really taking that to heart at the LA Chamber by bringing forward uh, the multiple options, the multiple funding options that are available. It's not a one size fits all. There are businesses that can walk into the bank today. There are businesses that need a little help before they walk into the bank. And there are other businesses that are better suited probably with a micro loan program that is sponsored, like you just pointed out, by either a city, a county, or the state. What makes me feel good is that our government bodies understand our economy and that they need to also create those opportunities of relief for those micro enterprises, for the underbanked. So I'm hopeful in that regard. And that's why I think that it's important for the chamber to also provide that technical assistance that that runs the gamut, from the very sophisticated borrower to one that may need a lot more assistance.
More help. What about issues of minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses? Do we have any data as to the impact of how these businesses are doing during this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the data, that's something that we are always looking to make sure that we can capture as well. And we rely on several of our partners to share some of that information for us. I think barring that information, what we do is extrapolate. You know, we know that in our community, that immigrant businesses, for example, that immigrant businesses are a large part of our economy here in Los Angeles. So we know that we're talking about minority-owned businesses. The Chamber works with a variety of business organizations that are serving those various communities. And I think it's important for the LA Chamber to be a partner with the multiple ethnic communities that we have here in Los Angeles to really embrace them. So we are, you know, keeping our doors wide open to ensure that, you know, everyone can participate.
So we want to wrap up the call. So again, $310 billion additional in
Yes.
stimulus to support small businesses. Maria, what are the steps that small businesses should do now to ensure that they receive a portion, that they are in the process of being able to get assistance of this new additional $310 billion?
Yeah, I think what they should know is that there are technical assistance centers available to them to actually help with like one-on-one advising, to help you, you know, put your documents together, to help even walk through the application. The LA Chamber has done a series of webinars that actually explain step by step how you fill out those documents. The application for the PPP program is only a 2-pager, but it's a little complicated because since it's about maintaining your employees, you have to provide payroll information. So from that perspective, businesses should know that there are technical assistance centers available to provide that guidance. The chamber, the LA Chamber, has one of them. They should also, if they have a relationship with a bank, they should definitely contact their banker and start having the conversation that they want to pursue this particular loan.
About credit unions, if they do their banking with a credit union?
Same thing with the credit unions. What I just read in the material is that credit unions will have a set aside dollars for this type of lending as well. So they should definitely be investigating with those organizations as well.
I know that it seems pretty dire right now. I can only imagine Um, what are you think, messages of hope across the city of Los Angeles that we will get back to where we were in terms of having a strong economy, where people have jobs, where our community is thriving?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to have this conversation a couple of times, and I can tell you that this will end. There will be an end to this. We might not know when it is right now, but there will be an end. And then there will be a period of time where we have to recover. We have to get back into uh, the way, our economy was. So there's a period of recovery that we'll have to go through. But I think the message of hope is that I've talked to so many people, whether it's in government, leaders like you, Assemblywoman, that are fighting every day, are championing our community, are championing small businesses and jobs. And that to me is the bright lining to it all, is that at the end of the day, we're all working so that we can, come out more resilient on the other side of things. So we should never lose hope.
I want to ask a couple of final questions before we
Yeah.
end. Anything specific that you think that we can give information to on mom and pop small restaurants that are struggling every day across the city of Los Angeles?
I think for the small restaurants, they have been the most creative to reimagine how do they get, their good product across to their consumers. They've talked about things like, pickup and takeout orders. I think some of them, I've seen them do real creative things in social media to engage their neighborhood and to keep supporting them. I know in my family, we like to pick 2 or 3 nights during the week to support a restaurant in our neighborhood. That's our favorite go-to. But I would say, the creativity that a restaurant had in wanting to open, use that same creativity. And how do you retain your customers in your neighborhood? There are folks that want to support for sure.
Yeah, and I can assure our small restaurants as well that in anything that we're doing across the state of California, that's a big, big conversation. I know it's a conversation locally, it's a conversation statewide. It's the thread of our community, and it employs
Absolutely.
a lot of people. And even across the nation, we know that small restaurants play such a huge role in the identity of a neighborhood. And so it's I think, a constant conversation. We do something here in my office as well, go out and support local restaurants with hashtag 8051 eats, with all the amazing food that's available. And I just want to thank all of the workers and restaurant owners that have continued to figure out a way to operate during this time and employ people when there's such tremendous job loss across the city.
Absolutely. I mean, and those are the businesses that we're championing every day, because those jobs are somebody's livelihood. So when we translate jobs into livelihoods, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you happen to have the information as to how much we're losing in the economy in the city of Los Angeles right now?
Boy, I don't, but I could, I don't have that figure right now, but that's something we should definitely, I know that there are economists that are working on that. One of the very telling employment figures, I think, is the unemployment rate. And you've heard how that has skyrocketed here in Los Angeles. I think nationally, when we look at the impact of small business, and when we're talking about, an economy that here in Los Angeles, what that means to our small businesses, it's a large number, and one that we can, one that definitely causes concern, that if we don't pay attention to this, it's a big impact to our economy.
Right. So the EDD office is now open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and they have different portals in terms of how folks can apply for unemployment. In the city of Los Angeles alone, 54% of all Angelenos have lost their income, have lost their type of employment. Independent contractors are also able to now apply for pandemic relief. So there are some situations that are happening, and the information changes daily. So we try to keep as much information available to all of our constituents and the people of the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles. I leave you with the final word to viewers right now.
First of all, thank you very much for having me and for having this conversation with me. The chamber has been all hands on deck for a couple of weeks now, but we have a team that is really dedicated to wanting to see the Los Angeles economy recover safely, and ensuring that we're thinking one step ahead of where do we need to be. So when we go back to work, when we reopen the economy, what does that mean to all of us? We think that we're going to be thinking about our work maybe in a different manner. How do we take advantage of more virtual opportunities like this? What is that going to mean to our workers when it comes to their childcare, their transportation needs? So I think everything about thinking about the future is something that requires a lot of planning and a lot of thought, so that when we go back, when we come out of this, we do it in the safest possible manner.
Well, thank you for that. I think there's an opportunity to create an economy that is really just for all workers and for all companies, that can really change and transform the city of Los Angeles, the state of California, and the nation. So
no doubt.
One final question to you,
Yes,
just to make it a little bit fun. Despite all this going on, you have a lot on your shoulders as the president and CEO of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce, the largest city across the state of California, with the most small businesses and stakeholders across the state. So no small task.
Yeah, thanks for that.
But when you're having a really hard day amid all of this this crisis that we're currently living in, is there a song, a CD that you go to, that you listen to, that you're just like, yes, it puts you back into that space of to continue?
You're gonna laugh because
Okay.
I am such I love that 80s music.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And I love the way my kids make fun of me for that. But a bit. It puts me back somewhere a long time ago. But yeah, I'm a big fan of 80s music.
Got it. We'll play a little bit of that when we edit this video. Again, thank you so much for taking the time and for everything that you're doing to support our small business community, and giving us the most up-to-date information. So right now, as of today, which today is, what day is it today? Today is
Tuesday the 21st.
21st, as all the days seem the same.
Yeah.
An additional $310 billion for small businesses. And the LA Area Chamber of Commerce is one of those hubs where you can go and get all the information to make sure that you are in the pipeline, that you and your small business, your family, and the workers that you may employ are in the pipeline to receive some of that stimulus money, which you deserve. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. Appreciate it.